Welcome in. It is play day number 6. We are getting ready for. Hey, are we all wearing esports jerseys right now? Oh wow, that's cool. That's neat.
Oh,
Oh, the gang's all
did-
ready
did-
today for a fun day of Siege. Look at us go. I'm your host Brimstone, and I've got Connor here with me and Tanner as well. Okay, it's an exciting day. We've got a ton of Siege out of the way, not just for this stage, but for this season. We are past the halfway mark. We've not blown by it at this point. We've inched by it. It's been quite the journey to get here. Tanner, let's talk about these teams and let's talk about the season that we've seen so far, the standings, because it means a lot. Now, I don't know if we'll have an overall standings ready to go for the entire season, but at least for the stage, and we can talk about the implications for the season.
Yeah, so at this point, we're at the halfway point throughout the season. We've had 5 play days. There's 5 play days left to go, and we're kind of starting to see where teams are starting to fall among the standings. At the top, currently, we have One Shot and Rent Free, who've had an absolute dominant season so far, or correction, a dominant stage so far. However, yesterday was kind of like a hiccup day for them. We saw that these top teams that are like infallible teams, they can bleed. Both teams had a regulation loss, and they weren't able to secure any points, which is a change from the pattern that they've been demonstrating to us throughout the rest of the stage. Also of note, at the top there, Took the Kids is looking quite exceptional recently. They haven't dropped it or played a single game where they haven't been able to get points, kind of reminiscent of that aerial rise that we saw in stage 1, where even though they're losing, they're still managing to get points up on the board, and that's why you see them up at third. And then moving towards the bottom of the leaderboard, you're starting to see some teams that, at the beginning of the stage, we wouldn't have expected to see them there. The Elyssars, the Aerial Rise, the West Garfield, the Gaming Gladiators, who have all kind of struggled out of the gates. Now, of which I want to just put an asterisk on the West Garfield Park. They have only 4 games played. Every other team, for the most part, has 5 or 6. I think they're the only team with only 4 games played. So it's really early in the stage for them, and they're going to have a really busy play day next weekend where they're going to have to play 4 games to make it up. But down there at the bottom in the auto elimination point is Gaming Gladiators, and they have just looked absolutely rough coming out the gate. They haven't managed to secure a game where they gotten all 3 points. The best they did was 1 overtime win, and then they have 5 regulation losses, not minus 19. It's not something we would have expected out of this roster, considering the pedigree of players that they currently have.
So I think what you're telling me here is we are not going to see any of their players on the leaderboards for stats. Now, Connor, what I'm interested to see is, I know we started off the year with a big kind of mix, and it looks like we do still have a big mix from a lot of players from a lot of different teams.
Yeah, because this stage overall has been incredibly competitive. Very competitive across the board. You have the new rent-free players coming in, mainly Dexter, still dominating that early round, that entry. A lot of one-shot presence still left on the board. Your prods, your kilos, they're all scattered about in almost every single category except entry, because they're the support players of one-shot and still doing well. But Gavini, Mr. Gavini, we're saying he owns an Italian restaurant, but he's owning the 3rd spot in rating because he's coming out of nowhere. He's on a rookie season, and apparently if you put an LMG in his hand, he's going to make some great things happen.
I hear his spaghetti sauce has a 1.23 rating as well. It's top-notch stuff. But the first matchup of the day that we're going to be seeing is Elyssar and West Garfield Park. Now, they are 2 of the ones, Tanner, that you brought up down near the bottom in 8th and in 10th. But I think we can agree for kind of different reasons, Elyssar's not being the best.
I mean, it depends. It's like there's a different team every single week. The last play days we saw, they looked great. They look so good, and they put up big numbers, and they look like they turned the ship around. And then yesterday when they played on Oregon, they look so stale and so rough. I don't know what's going on with them. The player I want to highlight for today, and it's not in a positive way, is young Alec. He's a player that we have seen be an absolute tour de force in stage 2 of last year. He was an MVP caliber player, and this stage, specifically the last play day, he went the first 8 rounds, he didn't drop a single kill. And it seems like when he's performing, the team's performing, or when Wimpy's performing, the team's doing well. But when he's not showing up and not coming onto the board, this team just looks flat. And that's exactly what we saw when they played yesterday.
You need big moments from your big players, and he's definitely someone that he's left us lacking or wanting more. Now, West Garfield Park, Connor, this is a team that we said put them on the board yesterday. Their play pretty outstanding.
Yeah, they looked incredibly good because he's looking more athletic than we've ever seen him be, where he doesn't really have to pick up as much of the supporting role. He's got Rice putting down what 5 plants in one singular match on the Habana, looking insanely well. And more than anything, it's actually Valor stepping up in some of the more aggressive capacities, especially on the defensive side, to really join up with what we see Snake do. Snake, he's
Mhm.
the constant with this roster that we know he's going for at least 15, but kind of where who the second frag is going to be is always the question mark, and it seems to be more solidified in with Valor. And when he's performing, the team looks like they're on the right trajectory.
Yeah, that pairing, that duo was insane yesterday. But we're going to flip right back over to LSR for the critical points. Now, Tanner, LSR, do you need any more motivation than saying, like, look, we can't let these guys catch up to us. We need to give ourselves a bit more of a buffer, not just for this stage, but for the season.
I mean, with the team like LSR, who's currently sitting in the playoff contention for stage 3, they're right there on the cusp.
Mhm.
Basically, there's a 1 point difference separating third place and fifth place, and West
Mhm.
Garfield's in sixth. So if you give them this opportunity to catch up, it's going to bite you in the butt in stage 3. Biggest thing I need them to do today is I need them to tighten up on the entry department. They were
Mhm.
just so slow last week, or sorry, last play day versus LG. They weren't getting in the building. LG was like playing really reserved. They weren't giving them a lot of picks, especially on their attacking half. If LSR could pick up that pace, get young Alec enabled, get Wimpy enabled, and pick up that pace, we can see what we saw last weekend with how they were playing. And then the last thing is don't get cut off by Snake. Snake had an absolute stellar performance yesterday on Chalet. He was making good flank plays. He was spawn peeking. We saw that again versus Aerial Rise on Cafe. He was spawn peeking. He was flanking.
Mhm.
So have your information squared away. Make sure you got your flank drone set. You're prepared for the spawn peaks. You're not getting caught by surprise. If you guys are able to do that, they have a pretty good chance of pulling the reins back in and playing like the team that they know they can be.
So, Connor, is your counterpoint then Snake do catch them by surprise?
Kind of. Kind of. But one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about with West Garfield Park, it's actually the same trajectory that we saw last stage, where all of a sudden, about 4 or 5 play days in, we're like, man, this team stinks. They're horrible. They're getting relegated. And then all of a sudden, they just start winning game after game after game, and everything finally clicked. That seems to
Mhm.
be the slow start once again for this roster, which sure you can attribute to early on. They already played their one shot, they already played their rent free, and now they're getting to play a little bit easier opponents, so they're looking a lot better. And more than anything, you're now going up against an Elyssar, which arguably should be another one of the kind of cusp edge teams in contention, where if they get early and often right up in their face, getting really aggressive, you're going to kind of facilitate and enable players like Snake and players like Valor and even
Mm.
Slippery up in the mix to get those early engagements, go for the jump outs, go for the spawn peaks, go for whatever. It's going to absolutely rattle ER.
Isn't that kind of ironic how the outlook of your stage can change? Because your first two losses, it's not that they've been winning since then, it's the two teams that you lost to kept winning since then. So you're like,
Not
maybe
that bad.
maybe not that bad. Okay, the next thing to do then is the map veto. Of course, we need to know, Tanner, where we're going to play, so I'll throw it to you for the veto.
Okay, so a couple big maps I'm looking to like not have show up on the board, and they're banned right off the rip. So West Garfield Park has demonstrated throughout stage 1 that they're a very strong Villa team. That's a perma ban that's coming out for the side of Elyssar, and Skyscraper, that's their other perma ban, and then Bank coming out from the side of West Garfield Park. That's a map that Elyssar has demonstrated that they've been excited to go to. The one big caveat I got right now is Cafe, and I'm surprised Elyssar is letting it go to the decider for West Garfield Park, because that has been a map that West Garfield Park has won or played twice, and they've looked good on both of them. They played it once versus one shot, and they looked good, and they absolutely dominated Aerial Rise. And we're going to be going to Oregon, which is an interesting choice because Alisar just lost that yesterday, and they did not look strong at all. I mean, we haven't seen West Garfield on at this stage, but Alisar yesterday did not look good at it. So now you've got recent VOD footage. I would say, in the terms of what map we're going to, this is looking very favorable for West Garfield Park.
Connor, we'll get the predictions up here. This is really interesting to further on Tanner's point, because they let it go to two maps that, as Tanner said, one they're very good on, and then the other one you've got VOD footage, quite a bit of it. LSR's played it 2 or 3 times, I believe, this stage, and most recently lost on it. That's a weird choice to let, as LSR, Connor, to let it go to those two maps.
Yeah, especially, I mean, sure, the cafe I don't think is as surprising to let go to the decider because of the historic core, your Vivid, your Giddy, your Inrio. That
Mhm.
investigation file playoff run last
Yeah,
year
yeah.
was heavily seen on cafe. They know how to play the map, so they should be strong on it. But once again, leaving it up to Oregon, maybe that was kind of the 50-50. They didn't know which way it was going to go, but probably seeing with West Garfield Park, if you leave a clubhouse or an Oregon up, it's probably going to go there. And I think overall, when it's a kind of a gun versus gun kind of map, a good gut check kind of fundamentals, West Garfield Park has looked a lot better. And that's actually why I'm going to be changing my vote. I think Snake's going to drop another 20 bomb right on
Yeah.
Wimpy's forehead, and it's going to be sad to watch.
I have to agree with you, Connor, on this one. I think I'm gonna have to switch over as well. It's just a combination of a few different factors, and I don't know. I was not confident in their Oregon yesterday,
Mhm.
and West Garfield did make me feel very confident. But Tanner, I think you had LSR before the day started as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did vote for Elyssar. Elyssar has been a team that has shown moments of brilliance, like I said a few weeks ago. But like yesterday was just not a good day. They had one game on stream on Oregon where they looked really weak, and then they had a game off stream where they took Karnako to Clubhouse, which I don't know why you're taking
Yeah, that was.
Karnako to Clubhouse. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And they lost in overtime. And the key
Mm.
players that I was looking to kind of step up, that young Alec player specifically to step up, and after having a really bad performance early on, he didn't do it. So uh, I don't know. It's just Elyssar, I feel like, is a coin flip for me at this point.
Mhm.
What team is going to show up at any given time? I really wish they would have that consistency because I really do like this roster.
Mhm.
But I got to give it to Snake and Bio. Like West Garfield Park has looked absolutely solid, and that's why they have my vote right now.
Yeah, Connor, do you think that momentum from yesterday will continue to carry them through today? I mean, obviously they've got your vote, they've got my vote, we've switched over, and Tanner as well. And we'll hear from Jonah in a second.
Yeah.
But
eh.
that momentum, it's got to carry through. It's got to be a huge factor in this matchup.
Oh, for sure. Especially when the playstyle of West Garfield Park is very frag intensive. When you're feeling good, you're feeling great, you're
Mhm.
feeling confident, you're going to be hitting those shots, you're going to be going for those crazy things that LSR in 50 million years would never predict for you to go for. And that's where you catch them off guard and you really put them on the back foot. And LSR, with the kind of their entirety of the season being evidence of what they've been struggling with, can't really bounce back. Hopefully they might be able to, because this roster is so insanely talented. They have so much experience. They've been in positions like this before, but I just
Mhm.
don't think that the bounce back's going to come today.
Well, we'll find out in just a moment because it'll be Bio and West Garfield Park taking on Vivid and his LSR. They're going to Oregon.
Jonah, after seeing the predictions, and I mean, after talking extensively with Tanner and Connor in the desk before this game, I gotta switch my vote too. Elyssar, you guys know I love you. I've been casting all 5 of those guys for like 3 years now, but I mean, they don't have Kento anymore. Elyssar have never been like a really solid Oregon team, despite winning it a lot. They mostly win it because Kento drops 20, and no one has really filled that Kento role or even that Newers role since those 2 players have left. And with West Garfield Park, with Snake going huge, with Valor stepping into those shoes, with Rice getting 5 plants on Chalet, I gotta go with West Garfield.
Yeah, I got to agree. Even though Connor kind of poo-pooed my reasoning there, and I don't know why we're wearing matching jerseys today, I also agree with you. And I think even with all that history aside, if you think about what we saw just yesterday, we saw West Garfield Park that destroyed Gaming Gladiators on Chalet. I mean, that was brutal. And then we saw an Elyssar team who just was not as composed on Oregon just yesterday. They went up against Luminosity, and we said coming into that game, this should be a map that favors both teams. They should be in a really good position to have a close matchup. And sure, it was close-ish, 7-4 the overall score line, but it was not the performance from Elyssar that we have come to expect. They're going to Oregon immediately the play day after. They're going up against a team that is hot right now. I think this is a recipe for disaster. They've got to come out the gate swinging, because if they don't, West Garfield are likely to get some of that momentum they had yesterday, and we saw how potent that could be.
Bans coming in. Finka, the first for Elyssar, obviously a counter to Snake. And I mean, you could see Snake kind of talking to himself in chat right now, but I'll pretend he's talking to me. And I agree. Who is Elyssar counter banning? Because Snake, yesterday, if I can flip back in my notes, find out how many kills did he have exactly. 18, was it? 16. he went 16-2 on Iana. So obviously, he does not need that LMG to frag. And like you said, that might hurt Elyssar's fragging potential more than it hurts him. People like Wimpy, people with Young Alec no longer have that LMG to work with. Ying, very common ban on Oregon, especially against Elyssar. Giddy loves his E-box drop with Ying. Not going to be available to him any longer. Azami, West Garfield, banned yesterday as well. And Valkyrie, of course, always solid on Oregon. But that does leave up the Cade, the Thatcher, the Mira. Plenty of operators to go around still for both sides.
And like you said, even if we see that Finka ban impacting Elyssar a little bit more, we won't see that right now. They'll be starting off on the defensive side, so West Garfield, they'll get a chance to showcase their attack, and as you mentioned a moment ago, Harrison, Snake will get a chance to showcase his Yana skills as well, something that we saw a good bit of yesterday. But on the West Garfield side of things as well, we do have an interesting element. Here on Oregon, we've got the Nook coming out from Valor, not something we tend to attribute to an Oregon playstyle, but again, it is something that teams like to bring out from time to time. The perfect operator to just crouch walk through part of the map and try to catch some of these defenders off guard. Early on, that's going to be very important for West Garfield to nail down if we see a good chunk of those defenders actually spread out on this map. It looks like this lineup is a little bit fluid. They could have someone like Wimpy playing up above, like Inrio, trying to hold a position potentially in tower as we see the whole team setting something up on this north side.
And the Nook is definitely interesting. We do see her sometimes like on a top floor attack. The Nook will be the one kind of clearing the mid floor and going for like a late white push. I'm thinking maybe Valor goes either Freezer or Laundry, kind of, opposite side push. Another interesting note is that Slippery is not using the LMG. He's rocking Zoe AR. You'll love to see it. We'll even get a frag with it. There's already a player on the defense retreating downstairs. Slippery had opened the hole to watch, but went for the reload. That allows Inrio back downstairs without any damage done, or at least tentatively on said stairs, with no damage done just yet. Wimpy, who we also saw top Freezer, has also fallen back. And we saw this yesterday from West Garfield too. Remember the round where they had like one drone left with about a minute 15 in? It's not nearly as severe, but still losing 4 drones really in the first minute to those 2 tentative roamers.
You see that West Garfield still working their way through this building, and like you said, they are losing a bit of time, but not too much, right? They've made a good bit of progress through 90 seconds. Drones, of course, are going to be an issue come late round if they have a bit of a problem getting that information and actually figuring out where those final few defenders are positioned. But for now, it is that classic back and forth waiting game as we see the freezer hatch opened up. E-box hatch, I expect, will be the next target for Rice. He still has to work his way around while the rest of the team begins to actually pressure down both in freezer and on the laundry staircase. Wimpy seems to be aware of this though, and as Valor swings out with a nade in his hand, Wimpy finds himself stuck in the corner, and the opening pick is an explosive one, going the way of West Garfield. Slippery gets another, but 2 kills find their way back for Elyssar, and a full execute is now going straight through the freezer. Gidding and Slippery find a way to go 1 for 1, and that turns us back to an even 2v2. 45 seconds, but West Garfield are not wasting time. They want to go for this execute right away, and unfortunately, it's going to cost another body. Snake is now the last player standing, and a quick peek towards Inrio costs him his life as well. An explosive start for sure, but not the start that West Garfield were hoping for.
Inrio on a couple pixel angles, making his presence known, and like you said, an explosive start with Valor getting the first kill, but after that, West Garfield struggled to get into the bomb site itself. Valor was refragged down laundry, so the Nook now dealt with. West Garfield struggled a little bit to punch themselves into freezer, considering how much utility was stacked up there. They kept going 1 for 1 over and over. Slippery went in, claimed his kill, but then Rice, peeking those head holes, goes down to the Cade. And West Garfield could not get a hold of the trade game like we saw them do yesterday against Gaming Gladiators. Elyssar kept in step, and Inrio, like I said, on those couple pixel angles, was able to just dash away after getting his kills, and perhaps that lack of info late in the round hurt West Garfield. Didn't quite look like they know where everyone was situated. They were losing a lot of gunfights to, you know, off angles and pre-fires and such from Elyssar. That gives Elyssar the first round, and we'll see them rotate up top, this time bringing a Warden and a Thorn, so many more shields now in the mix.
Yeah, a lot more utility focus on this defensive side,
Oh,
especially
C4,
that Thorn. That should be interesting because, of course, you know, those Razor Bloom grenades, they can force attackers into a bit of a bind, force them into a corner, and especially right when you begin that execute, if you got a Razor Bloom by that doorway, the attackers can't just take a couple steps in, take a gunfight, and back out. The moment that Razor Bloom goes off, you either got to commit or you're going to die in an explosive burst of shards. So, something that West Garfield will have to pay attention to a bit later, but right now,
That's
it's
disgusting.
just about getting into the map. And Snake will do it, like you said, Harrison, in a disgusting way. Well-placed angle and a nice shot onto young Alec, who was biting off a little bit more than he could chew behind that deployable shield and trophy.
Yeah, dead position player that frees up Master Bedroom. And Slippery follows it up onto Giddy. Wimpy will get a refrag, and the front door coverage is not there. Inrio slips by, no pun intended, to get the kill on Slippery, but there's refrags aplenty for West Garfield, this time assuring that the round does not get out of their control. Wimpy now the last one left. He'll try and climb up White Stairs. He's spotted by Biologic, and the sledge retreats, but now they know that Wimpy is back in the site. Default wall opened late, but opened nevertheless by Rice, carrying that case, and there's not a lot Wimpy's going to be able to do to stop this plant other than just trying to swing him. Biologic now jumped through the window, plant attempt goes down, but they don't even need it. Snake rotates through Attic, finishes him off, and we're tied 1 apiece.
Exactly what West Garfield needed to do to adjust. They did not take it slow. The moment they got that opening pick, they used it to just open up the rest of the round. And that's one of their greatest strengths when you have such capable fraggers. To be fair, almost every single CL roster has that kind of talent these days. But what they do have as well is just simply good decision making. Once Snake got that opener, they followed it up with another entry pick. Yes, there were a couple of trades, but West Garfield knew that once that Wamai was dead, young Alec wouldn't be regenning any more Wamai magnets. That shield and trophy would be exposed. You had the pressure coming in from Armory. You had pressure coming in from Master Bedroom. They had all those little components they needed to take swift control of not only the area around the site, but the site itself. Obviously, a little bit of back and forth when we saw the flank come off. Actually, a double flank from both the Thorn and the Jaeger. That almost worked very well for Elyssar, but West Garfield, since they had that advantage, they were able to neutralize and hang on for the remainder of the round. So good for them, because they'll tie us up at 1-1.
Yeah, the front door flank watch from West Garfield was strangely absent. We saw him kind of hugging the left side of that doorway from Inrio's perspective, but like you said, didn't spiral out of control. So still won the round. And Valor, ever on the carousel of operators, now picking up Amaru. We'll see where he decides to go with that operator. Could be used to assist the T3 clear, maybe? You know, shove utility in on one side, have Valor swing the other, and kind of, while the Jaeger's distracted by the Amaru coming through his window, you know, peek and kill him. That could be the plan. That's where Valor's kind of hanging out at, but no one else is on any of those tower repels. In fact, Valor will just normally repel up to T3 and just pre-fire. He lights up Inrio quite a bit, and with another pre-fire finishes him off. So no Amaru utility needed. He had the info, and he'll get the first kill.
Yeah, and Snake quickly just enters down below in T2 to take that control the moment that Inrio has fallen. I mean, it's a great place to begin. Obviously not for Elyssar. You throw Inrio in T3 and you expect him to waste time utility, maybe get a kill or two, but really none of that was accomplished. Still within 60 seconds, West Garfield were able to move in, and at this point in the round, they are almost at the exact same point they were in round number 2. Same progress, good efficiency, and even better intel game. They've spotted Wimpy, now they've taken down young Alec again, and everything is clicking all of a sudden.
And they're getting this wall open much faster, only halfway through the round as Valor gets yet another kill going through Attic, keeping the ball rolling from that first kill on Inrio. Drone coming through, it will spot Vivid, and he'll get killed by Slippery, who's already in the site, taking the initiative. Snake eats some damage, but trades it back onto Wimpy. Valor looking the wrong way, turns around just in time, and Snake comes in for the assist. A flawless attack from West Garfield, and they completely shut out Elyssar. Great use of that Amaru.
Yeah, completely shutting Elyssar out on dorms as well, the site that is generally second easiest to defend on this map. West Garfield not having it. Elyssar will take their basement victory, but that's all they're going to get through the first 3 rounds of this best of 1. So Elyssar now looking to pivot, and they'll head to meeting and kitchen next. But what made dorms fall apart so quickly once again was just West Garfield's efficiency and just their tenacity on that roam clear. Once they took down Inrio, they did not slow down. Maybe they took 15, 20 seconds to get a wall open and get some more intel, but the moment they figured out where Wimpy was, we saw a couple of kills happen. We saw how they said, okay, Wimpy's off the site. We know site is now vulnerable in this 5v3. Let's push in and take those fights. They did that, and surprise, surprise, Wimpy was the last player standing. That is the kind of situation that West Garfield can continue to take advantage of, and if they do, this one won't even be close. So Elyssar need to be careful of where they're putting their bodies and how far extended they're going to be from the site.
Now they'll try meeting. Instead of going back down to the Bastion that they won in the very first round, they'll try a tertiary site against West Garfield. Slippery off the Zoe, onto the Jackal, making sure that these upstairs roamers are not going to have anywhere safe, anywhere hidden to sit and hide. Valor, once again, swapping to a different operator. Now he is on the Maverick for some assistance for Rice in that hard breach department, although for now he'll just be sitting right outside of the big door and lobby. Rice and Snake, in the meantime, are droning themselves in on the dining side of things. Makes me wonder if this is less vertical-centric of an attack than I had initially thought.
Yeah, instead, they are providing the coverage up top, but not fully committing to it, at least just yet. Obviously, they still have a lot of time to commit to that decision if they want to pivot later in the round, but we see West Garfield scrambling around down below, and it does suggest that they're going to get a bit more horizontal. Already, Snake is providing a bit of a cutoff on the site itself, making sure that if Elyssar rotate around, that he'll be able to actually get some kills early, and once again, open up that site and give them an opportunity to pounce. At the same time, you always have to keep an eye on Rice here, on the Hibana, because if you're attacking meeting, and you see that Hibana approaching from that lobby side, a split take is usually what we end up seeing. And with no Elyssar defenders actually in meeting itself, nobody in garage or providing coverage from classroom, it should be pretty difficult for them to stop this if West Garfield commit. Vivid, though, will strike first, and now he'll strike again as he takes down Bio. That's 2 big openers. Inrio on the follow-up gets another before Valor trades it back.
I thought this was going to be an easy execute for West Garfield because there was only one man on the site, and split executes are a little bit hard to defend against from above, but Vivid goes huge inside of Kitchen and leaves Valor and Rice alone. Valor's patiently waiting for this Melusi to come through Z, but there are pings. I don't know who it's on. Might have been on Valor. No, it's actually on Rice in the site. Nevertheless, Wimpy gets the kill and leaves the Hibana alone in a 1 versus 3. Elyssar hungry to equalize the score at 2-2. Rice hopping on a drone real quick, maybe a fat finger as he hops right off of it, but you can tell he's not working with a whole lot of info. Try and sneak his way past Split once again and into Kitchen, where Inrio is waiting for him behind the island. Wimpy could be in range to refrag if he starts swinging now. Flash goes out, perfect bait from Rice, and a pre-fire to land the triple with the bearing 9. Now all that's left is young Alec. He's upstairs in Attic. I don't know if he can see the planter from the hatch. He'll have to drop. Rice gets off just in time, but young Alec wins the fight, and Elyssar able to stop the clutch attempt, take round number 4.
Aside from the near clutch in the end, you gotta give it up to the way that Elyssar played that. They were so freaking patient. It was so good to see that instead of actually putting bodies on the site or panicking when West Garfield didn't end up clearing vertical, they felt comfortable with the information they had. We saw the pings on the site. They had at least one BP in place, probably from the Melusi, who was keeping an eye on the site and making sure that nobody could jump in without a call happening or a ping happening. They just stayed back and waited. Vivid was really the only one on the site itself for that early push, and West Garfield, even though they had a read on that situation, they didn't quite understand how much information that Elyssar had against them, because when West Garfield tried to walk in, Vivid knew exactly where they're coming from, and he got 2 opening kills because of it. That's a great adjustment, and that keeps us tied.
Yeah, and if Vivid doesn't get probably both of those kills, we could see a completely different round. So hats off to Vivid and the rest of Elyssar. Rice, a fantastic attempt at a clutch big triple kill on the round for him, but unfortunately just could not lock it out that close using an ACOG against an SMG-11. That's a tough fight to win. Good job, young Alec, to drop the hatch and finish it off. And now we go back down the laundry. Finally, we will once again see the site that Elyssar had won in round number 1, and they'll be looking to retake that lead here.
Back and forth so far, neither team utterly dominant, but does still feel like West Garfield has a bit of an edge, just the way in which they've won the rounds that they actually do have. Just the dominance in those rounds in particular is something that I'm sure they're hoping can carry them through this, and something that Elyssar are surely going to prevent if they can over the remaining 2 rounds. We are heading back to the basement, after all, a site that West Garfield were unable to attack that first round, and Elyssar kept things pretty tidy and especially had a very strong trade game. But what might make a difference here is if they're able to isolate young Alec and take him out first. Nobody in an immediate position to trade him if he were to fall, and West Garfield seemed to have a perfect idea of where he's located.
And there it is. I was just about to say that's dangerous from Slippery, but the punch hole ends up working out. In the meantime, though, Valor will die to Inrio. So what could have been a good opening pick on one of those roamers ends up being a 1-for-1 trade, and you lose a Wamai upstairs roaming for a Maverick. If all those hatches are closed, that's going to be utility that's sorely missed from West Garfield. Luckily for them, Freezer seems to be open. E-Box is closed, and I mean, you still have a Hibana. So with one hatch open, and I don't expect them to go laundry side, losing that Maverick at the end, it's more nades than it is the hard breach.
Man, this has really slowed down, though, hasn't it? I mean, West Garfield, this is probably the slowest attack we've seen from them so far, even after they were able to secure 1 kill onto young Alec. The question is, how are they going to transition that actually into this execute? Only now is Rice getting that D-box hatch open, trying to open up laundry as well. And these 5 remaining drones, now 4 remaining drones, are being sent towards the site. They haven't really picked a decision, they haven't really made a decision, rather, on where they want to execute from. But the fact that we're seeing Slippery and Snake rotate over towards Bunker, now you've got the E-box hatch open and some pillar stairs presence, it does look like we're going to see a take from this north side.
Start an open Bunker. That's an interesting late rotate considering how little time is left. Snake sending a nade into Barrel will flush Vivid off momentarily, and those 2 players will be allowed in. Vivid takes the swing, though, takes out Slippery. Snake with a refrag, but it's really late. The rest of his team has already died, and it's just Rice again in a clutch position. 1 versus 2, sees the mirror for a moment, can't land the shot, doesn't see Wimpy and Elyssar. They do, in fact, go down to laundry, win it again, and take the 1-point lead.
Yeah, we've got a game on our hands here, folks. I mean, it started out, right, with Elyssar taking the first, West Garfield with 2 confident round wins, but Elyssar with 2 fantastic rounds where we saw some nice adjustments, really forcing West Garfield to play a lot slower, forcing them to play into Elyssar's hands, and that has been a very clean result, now back-to-back rounds. The 2 rounds that West Garfield won were explosive, they were very fast, and they were both on a pretty exposed top floor. The rounds they lost, they had to play slow. They had to take their time, burn utility, and as we just saw in the end, burning utility is not something they did enough of. Pushing Bunker late like that, sure, you maybe catch the defense off guard, but if you haven't taken the time in the early round to get rid of that shield in elbow, you haven't taken the time to remove the player from Harry Potter or remove the player sitting in pillar, you're going to have a hell of a tough time actually taking that control with so little time left on the clock. And we saw that come to fruition, right? We saw 2 players push in bunker. They were able to get some trades, but they ended up losing in that scuffle because they hadn't burned enough utility and they simply were not prepared for that late adjustment in the nick of time.
Positioning being off to whoever was coming down tower stairs, I think may have been Rice, if there was a player there at all. Couldn't see Vivid and allowed Vivid to swing into bunker, thereby killing Slip and allowing the trade onto Snake after Snake had gotten his kill. So really well done to Elyssar to lock down that round, but we do go back to dorms, and this is Elyssar's 3rd attempt on this site. Hopefully, for their sake, history doesn't repeat themselves, but I'm sure West Garfield are licking their lips at the opportunity to attack this bomb site again. This time, though, young Alec doesn't seem he's going to be as keen to stay in trophy, and yeah, he's just going to try and shoot a drone and skate away. There was no shield there for him to play behind, and I think that's smart. With young Alec playing there twice now and dying really early on twice, removing him from that position is likely the right call.
There's also another adjustment Elyssar making here, right? It's putting Wimpy downstairs early on. I wonder how active he's going to get. Obviously, we saw him on the alibi once a couple of rounds ago. That didn't work out. He was joined by Inrio, I believe. But while he's busy twiddling his thumbs down below, Valor is busy making an impact. That's probably going to inspire Wimpy to get a move on instead of sitting in a corner, because now the site is very vulnerable. You now lost young Alec as well. Giddy is getting torn apart. Inrio, who was a little extended on the other side of Attic, has finally come back towards Pit, but Wimpy has still not moved.
Giddy's shield gone as well now. The site becoming more and more exposed. It's becoming more and more pertinent that Wimpy move and make an effect. He's going to get aggressive, eat a lot of shots. He's down to just 1 HP. He'll pull out the shotgun, but it's another nade from below by Valor, going huge with the depth charges, looking for another as Wimpy turns his back. 3 kills for Valor. Inrio trying to claw his way back, gets 1. Rice trades, and West Garfield even the half, 3-3.
Yeah, all 3 rounds coming on the exact same site. Just wasn't clicking for Elyssar upstairs, despite the attempt of putting Wimpy down below in that last round. Just the lack of execution was really the problem. I like the idea because you know how much pressure that West Garfield are probably going to apply from down below, how much pressure they did apply. They got 2 nade kills, by the way, from downstairs, while Wimpy was sitting around the corner. A little bit puzzling why he didn't choose to get involved after we saw that first nade kill, after he knows there's a Nook on the board, probably ratting their way around that first floor. There's no better time for the Melusi to step up and actually try to get involved. But he didn't, I guess, tried to play for the plant. It's not like he has a C4 or anything, so it was a little bit confusing as to his decision making. But regardless, we end at 3-3 half. So both teams probably satisfied with their performance, but I'm sure that Elyssar wished they could find a 4th defensive round, because now they're going to have to walk into some West Garfield defenses, and we know how strong those can be.
You see how Elyssar adapts to the lack of a Ying on these downstairs attacks. And, well, Jonah, the adaptation seems to be Amaru, as Giddy is typically the one that plays said Ying. Amaru on basement, you know, at first thought doesn't really make any sense, but maybe he's just using it to get an early entry into the building, put pressure on Slippery, and it does force the Jaeger back downstairs. But again, you kind of got to wonder if they expected a different site, because otherwise, you know, there's plenty of operators that can do exactly what Amaru does.
Ooh, Bio's been droned now, so he'll be forced to fall back. But he's actually going to commit to this because Snake is here too. Unfortunately, that's not going to work for him, as you see Inrio just popping his head off screen. And finally, that will tell Snake it's time to, give up that position and fall back. But an aggressive early start from West Garfield that is not paying off whatsoever. The 1 player downstairs on the site strategy doesn't seem to be working. They're trying to get in the face of this Elyssar attack and force them to play aggressive, force them to play that trade game, but the thing is, looks like Elyssar read right into it.
Yeah, 2 kills in a row for Elyssar, one of them being the C4 operator, and another being a smoke, followed up onto Snake. And what happened? West Garfield trying to, again, speed up the game, knowing that Elyssar have won a lot of these slow rounds, have fallen to exactly what they were punishing Game and Gladiators for yesterday. Solo roams, placing themselves on islands, taking gunfights despite the enemy team having info, and they aren't able to get a single kill in that round.
Yeah, that felt really bizarre because, like you said, it was 5 different defenders in 5 different positions. I guess you could argue that Snake and Bio were close together initially, playing off each other, but other than that, everyone was by themselves. They were completely alone, and as it turns out, completely exposed. The combination of those 2 elements, alone and exposed, well, flawless rounds are going to happen when we see that all the time. That's the second flawless round we've seen on this map. Now, 1 flawless round for each team, but that one in very different fashion, in a lot worse fashion, I'd say, for West Garfield. That was a questionable decision the way they played that, no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and didn't have a chance to elaborate on before Slip died, but it seemed like West Garfield tried to speed the game up again, knowing that Elyssar, likes to take their time, likes to get slow. If you let Elyssar set up, they will likely punish you. But West Garfield got caught with their pants down. Elyssar still slowed the game down with info. And now we'll see the Omaru come out once again. This time, now it makes sense. It's an upstairs defense, which is much more useful here. So we'll see what Giddy decides to do with it. There's a whole slew of avenues that you can use with the Omaru. The funniest of which being up the kids hatch. If that happens, that'd be incredibly entertaining. But again, we'll have to see later in the round. We're also seeing a buck being played from Vivid, kind of choreographing that they'll probably go in from below, but as they're setting up right now, you might just skeleton key open the big window, pop a lion scan from Wimpy. Omaru comes in at the same time, and there we go. Gone 6 goes out, Inrio dead. Omaru survives the shotgun blast. It's just a 1-for-1 for now. Planter is in with Diffuser. He's gonna tuck himself in the corner and get it down. Bio has a C4 from below, but he's got no info to play off of. He's not even sending it up. He's not even attempting. Snake has missed his in the meantime. Vivid gets it down, essentially for free, and now we're stuck in a retake. 2 in attic, 2 downstairs. Bio finally gets a C4 kill to give his team the advantage. Giddy is lit up from that earlier shotgun blast, and he'll die. Vivid able to get the 2, though, in kind. Wimpy and Vivid in the 2 versus 2. They've only got another 13 or so seconds to delay this round, and West Garfield have little to no info to play off of, little to no HP on Snake, and 0 utility save for a pocket jammer from Biologic. They know about Vivid's position, and oh, Snake, he got the kill on the window. Wimpy allows the round to slip away, and they've got just enough time to win it. West Garfield somehow tie the score.
Oh my goodness, that made no sense at all. It looked like Snake was dead for sure on the stairs. I mean, he was being choked off by double Vulcan canisters. He had nowhere to go, and he was on 1 HP when he took both of those gunfights. How does that happen? It looked like a perfect read from Elyssar, and it looked like during that execute that they avoided every small checkpoint, every little disastrous element that could have got them in trouble. Those Vulcan canisters, first of all pre-placed and positioned early, but none of them exploded. None of them were detonated or shot in time by the defense, so Elyssar were able to get in unscathed. 2 C4s, both of them missed early, and Elyssar were again able to get in unscathed. It was looking like a perfect storm for the attack, but then Snake just shows up and goes absolutely crazy. I'm hoping to see on Twitter later the clip of him hitting both of those shots because we weren't able to catch his POV. But, man, that is a retake and a half, and they sneak out that round by the skin of their teeth.
Big part of that, too, and you really got to feel for Rice. The shotgun blast, point blank at the Omaru flying through the window that she just eats up. That was just sad. That was just sad to watch. I sometimes the shotgun just... as they say, if you don't believe in the shotgun hard enough, it'll fail you. So A little unfortunate there for Rice, but I mean, what a retake from West Garfield. It really should be 5-3 right now, but it's not. And life moves on. We're going back down the laundry. Elyssar had won this site because of a very heavy roam from West Garfield that didn't really do a whole lot. And they're playing it pretty much the same way, only this time there's a kill. It's slip onto Wimpy, but quickly answered back onto Snake. So once again, you know, West Garfield, they do start the fragging off, but it's traded.
I really hope we see them kind of bring this one back to the site and rein it in a little bit. Just how disastrous this strategy was in the last round. Kind of like what we're seeing here. We've got 2 players who have now retreated to the site, and the other 2, that's Slippery and Valor, playing pretty close together over here on the tower side of things. So trying to avoid that problem they had 2 rounds ago where everyone was far too isolated and all those gunfights were simply just 1v1s that Elyssar were winning, or even 2v1s that Elyssar were winning. Now West Garfield should be in a position to play the trades when the situation comes to it. And for good measure, they're not getting any more aggressive. They're just going to tuck back on the site, force Elyssar to now do their due diligence, get these walls open, get these hatches open, and pressure the site by themselves.
We'll spot Valor, who is back down on the site, and again with a pocket jammer. What is... I remember that used to happen, like, last stage a bunch, too. What is with West Garfield and not putting down all their jammers? Like, he's not even rocking the shotgun. He's not even doing prep. I don't know. Maybe we can ask that in the interview. Why the hell don't they just put down all their jammers so consistently? But there's a minute left, Jonah, and Elyssar are just beginning to transition. They're sending their drones down into sight, of which they still have 9 of leading into the last 50 seconds. That is peak drone economy, especially since there were roamers on the board, and Rice will send out his first gas canister covering E-Box with about 45 seconds left as 2 drones come in through bunker, now alerting Rice that that is likely where the next area of attack is. He will send the gas canister out rather early on, just as the barricade is opened. Slippery gets spotted trying to push up the stairs. Flashes go in. Rice is going to have to cover, but Giddy just moves on through. Gets the kill on Slippery because Rice backs off, and because of those smoke canisters, Vivid goes in. Biologic gets the equalizer. Make it a second for the Malusi, and he's turned this round in West Garfield's favor. The Iana comes through, pre-fires Bio down. There's no C4, no gas canisters. This is just going to be a dry plant attempt for Elyssar, and Inrio sitting right on top of his teammate, but they trade, and Valor wins the round for his team. Rice, the cleanup, as easy as that, and West Garfield take the lead.
That round actually felt a lot similar to one of the flubbed West Garfield attacks on basement, you know, in that first half. It felt similar because of that late adjustment to bunker, where Elyssar had made all of this progress, and then they decide, okay, actually, let's pressure from bunker. Let's try to take that control, force the player out of elbow, and take the control from the back in combination with some work in pillar. Overall, a good strategy and something that can work really well, again, if you have prefaced the round and really worked hard to get that position established, but Elyssar maybe took a little bit too long to do it, and the big thing was they telegraphed that pretty early too. I mean, once that minute mark passed, we saw it, and you called it out, Harrison, how those 2 drones just went right under that bunker door, and the player sitting close in the corner said, okay, we know it's coming. There's going to be 2 players working their way in bunker. It was pretty obvious. At that point, West Garfield know exactly how to position. Right, Slippery knew that he was about to get pressured in pillar, so he could fight that accordingly. Bio knew that playing in that long haul around the close corner would be important, because when that pillar pressure comes in, that he is in a position to deny it. So well done, and that puts them now up around 5-4. They take the lead for the second time in this map, and coming off of a round that they barely won, winning a round like that's got to feel good.
Yeah, I mean, West Garfield, the last 2 rounds must be massive, massive confidence boosters, especially because, you know, unlike last night, you don't have Snake dropping 16, you don't have Valor on 12, but what you do have is a much more even scoreboard. Your worst player right now is going 5-5. I mean, I'll take that. 5-5, 6-5 for Snake. I mean, Valor's still 9-7. Everyone's still like right there. Actually, I just noticed there. It's like a straight 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everyone is right there. Everyone on West Garfield is contributing. Meanwhile, Elyssar has a standout performer in Inrio. Everyone else is much lower on the scoreboard. We're going to need a lot more voices chiming in from the attack if they want to start taking these rounds, because a couple of those gunfights go a different... I mean, literally exactly one of those gunfights in either of the past 2 rounds goes Elyssar's way instead, and they end up winning it. And Snake and Bio, though, they're not even going to give Elyssar a chance to start things off correctly. They'll get an opening 2 before Giddy finally refrags.
Yeah, tough start in the round for Elyssar. They did get the one back, as you said, Harrison, but you lose Inrio and young Alec the Sledge. Losing him at this point in the round is a problem, especially when it looked like they were probably itching to pressure upstairs a bit. I mean, they got this wall open for a reason, or at least they're using this angle that the defense may have opened for a reason. The point is, they're trying to pressure this top floor, but now, for what? You no longer have any instrument to conduct vertical play. You now have to hope you could just get these kills and walk down a staircase, drop down a hatch, and get some kills there as well. You no longer have the plentiful utility and destructive potential that both Inrio and young Alec brought to the lobby here. Losing Snake, obviously, for the West Garfield side of things isn't ideal, but you have got 4 bodies and a lot of utility to counter a push from Elyssar that looks like it's coming in far too late.
45 seconds remaining. Not a whole lot of utility except for stuns from Wimpy. Giddy is not playing the execute gridlock, so he's not got smokes either. And, uh-oh, no drones with Iana dead. Giddy dead as well. That leaves Wimpy and Vivid alone. Banshee calling out Wimpy, wailing on the white stairs. Sure, Bio takes a lot of damage. The stun is going to allow Wimpy through, and Vivid gets the kill on Bio. That's extremely important, but Slippery, still alive, crosses right in front of Vivid. But the site is still downstairs, lest we forget. Valor's watching this hatch. This is not a safe drop for Vivid. He will die if he goes for this without his teammate. And there it is. Easy for Valor. He'll try and get the second, but Rice is there for the trade. Another incredible double play by Valor and Rice, and puts WGP on match point.
Yeah, what a turnaround it has been from that Elyssar rush where things looked like they were all going their way. 2 rounds later, it is West Garfield ready to put this map away. 6-4 right now with a successful site rotation. 3 in a row. They got dorms, they got basement, and now the tertiary site, a meeting and kitchen. They've got that one all buttoned up as well. They're going to head back to dorms to see if they can pull something out again. But the thing is, this one is definitely going to unfold a lot differently. So for all intents and purposes, we are seeing this for the first time. This dorm site with this dorm's attack, because it's not going to be a rush from Elyssar, likely yet again.
Now, I imagine the buck is probably going to be used for bottom-up vert. I have to imagine. I mean, what else are you going to bring a buck for? Wimpy's also got nades, so it's probably going to be him, Inrio, and Giddy. Maybe Wimpy, Giddy, and young Alec. We'll have to see where they put their nade slash soft breach. But West Garfield, they're not going to be rushed on, so maybe those Goyo fires not going to be working as against them as we saw in the previous attempt. But either way, it's going to be tough for Elyssar. I mean, down by 3 rounds, and 2 of them being, oh really, I guess technically 3 of the past 3 of them being really good clutches from West Garfield. It's going to be tough. And now it's even tougher. You know, the whole idea of Nook is to get in unknown and unseen, but it seemed like West Garfield had a pretty good idea. Slippery standing on the stairs and Snake very slowly pinching in from behind.
Yeah, they seem to have a pretty clear read on that situation. I think that's a good call, Harrison. And I think that Elyssar now need to find a way to fight themselves out of this hole, not only in this round, but in this map overall, right? They've lost the momentum in a big way ever since, you know, round 8 ended in that explosive retake from West Garfield, and this defense, Now Elyssar need to find a way to get a couple more kills back. Something that has been going really well for them has been their drone economy. Clearly their intel game has been on point, but they just haven't been able to transition that information into actual kills, actual map control and progress in the round. At least in the mid round, where it matters the most. In the late round, we're seeing these executes come in, but West Garfield have been able to play the trades and stay alive. Elyssar need to break that streak, break that rhythm as soon as they can, but Snake smokes Young Alec, despite Young Alec seemingly being aware of his position. Bio takes down Inrio, and just like that, Elyssar are in a much deeper hole.
Even with the info, Elyssar can't get it together. Giddy and Vivid now in a 2 versus 5, make it a 2 versus 4 as they finish off Biologic downstairs. That is one of 2 C4s now dead. The gas canisters still very much alive, as is Snake, who has not retreated back to the site yet. He's still tucked around that meeting doorway in Green Hall, just daring Elyssar to try and push him. Giddy still desperately attempting to make something happen with the vertical play, but Kid's bedroom is completely evacuated by this defense. Good angle from Slippery to try and nab this buck as well, but he can't hit the trigger in time. Giddy will even, or rather almost, even the odds, but the time ever working against them. 25 seconds left. Last gas canister goes out. Giddy still trying to find something. He'll go right below Rice and at the very least force the smoke to move. This is a very dangerous angle from Valor. Snake, beautiful kill downstairs and make it a second for the Goyo. 3 kills for Snake, and that'll finish the game 7-4 for West Garfield Park.
Yes, Snake was just waiting for his moment to strike. That kill onto Young Alec early, and like you pointed out, Harrison, he just sat in the corner, in the Green Hall, waiting until those final 2 Elyssar attackers were so tunnel visioned on the site, were so strapped for time that they had to commit to a push. That's exactly when Snake decided to slither in and pounce. It was really well executed because it was right at the moment where Elyssar had to charge up the white stairs. They could no longer just sit around on the vertical play. They no longer had the time to focus on the flanks and deal with those drones. They had to commit to the site, and they ran out of time, and they ran out of options. 7-4, West Garfield Park clean it up after a very competitive start to this map. Surprising how quickly they were able to jump out ahead and finish it off in this best of 1.
Yeah, and again, we see Elyssar unable to really have that Kento player, that Newers player who's going to go crazy because, like we said, they've never really been a crazy Oregon team. They've just had crazy Oregon players. Before we switch back to the desk, Jonah, I must call you out. I missed the opportunity to say that Snake slithered in and struck. Because that's what snakes do. They strike. They don't pounce.
True. They don't pounce. Good call.
Yeah, get on your... What the hell do they call the study of reptiles? Herpetology?
I do not know that.
Something like that, but I digress. Back to the desk to talk about West Garfield Park and why us switching our votes was so big brain.
Thank you, Jonah, and thank you, Harrison. Well done. Moving into this is a lot to break down. Tanner, I'll start with you. This game, I mean, despite the 7-4 final scoreline, this was neck and neck. This was a nail biter, and kudos to both teams for making it so.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I really did like the effort that Elyssar was putting in, especially on the defensive half. They looked really dominant, especially on the basement defenses. It's only when they chose to go to the top floor and they lose it 3 times that they kind of had a rough go of it. And I really want to give a shout out to Bio for this game because I think he was a really instrumental piece to why West Garfield Park were able to pull away on this attack half. You know, historically, Elyssar's a team that when they attack, they're pretty terrible when it comes to the site execute portion of the game itself. However, today, it's at the beginning of the defensive half, West Garfield was just like swinging everything. And it's somewhere, I believe it was like round 9 after the failed rush from Elyssar, they decided, all right, you know what? We're going to let them execute. We're not going to swing them wildly. We're going to play basement defense. We're going to bunker down. And what did we see? We saw Elyssar waste all their time executing the last 10 seconds and then lose when they're trying to get the bomb down in a 2v1 swing on the planter. So it was just a very good identification coming out from Bio that this is an issue that they're having. It was a really good tempo switch coming out from them, from that aggressive that we saw in the attack half into a little bit more reserved. And I think that was what was the TSN turning point for this game.
You gotta love when a leader can just take a hold of the game. You get flawless in that first round and go, no, it's not happening again. And to further the point of the successes of West Garfield Park, Connor, I mean, that first half, their attack was impressive, albeit it was a 3-3 split. But there was just something about their entry game and everything, and you just knew at some point the levee would break, and then we'd have this 7-4 game.
Oh yeah, for sure. On the attacking side, it was mainly Valor as well as Slippery. Slippery, even though you see him on the Zofia, he did swap onto the Thatcher and was playing a lot more of a cutoff game, as players like Valor and Snake were pushing the roamers, your young Alec and your Inrio, kind of back towards him, which was nice to see. But Valor, he's who I really want to highlight. Going 10-8, we talked about him in the pregame. He was the one to watch, and his knock play was an absolute masterclass of what you need to do on that operator on those top floor attacks, because every single round he was getting like 2 nade kills. Like, oh my goodness, West Garfield Park, it was just free kill after free kill from down below. Didn't even need a drone. They know the common positions. They were cooking up the nades perfectly, throwing them at those floorboards, and watching players on the really important anchor ops like your Vivids go sky high.
You love matches where you see awesome nade play. It just makes it so much more exciting. Once again, though, we have Bio ready for the interview. We'll talk to him a bit about his team, and I'll be back with you boys in a moment. Bio, here we are again, except today it wasn't just the Valor and Snake show. It was everyone, including you yourself. You guys were all popping off. What's up with the team right now?
I think Forceful asked me about my team like a couple of weeks before the season started. Like, how would I feel about it? Like, this iteration of the team is more of like an actual team. Like, coming into CL last stage, I didn't really know anyone, and I always made a team like off friends and like people who I knew. But like last stage, I didn't really know anyone, so I was just going off like hearsay, like who's good, like whatnot, and I just put like 4 fraggers together and me, and it didn't work. So I obviously had to make some changes. I scattered like some people out. Like, I wanted Rice. Obviously we kept Snake, had Valor, and then we would have had Rudy, but you know, Rudy left. So next best up was like Slippery. And, you know, Slippery was a good fragger on one shot, and so it just fit.
I mean, he was 9-10 today, but 3-1 on entry, which is huge. At that point, it doesn't matter what the overall is. That entry was crucial for you guys. Now, the other question I have for you is, was this carried upon momentum from yesterday, or did you treat today as a brand new day?
You just gotta treat it like a brand new day. I mean, Elyssar, they had a rough day yesterday. They lost both their games, so like they treated it as a brand new day. They came out like hot. I mean, granted, some of our attacks we lost because we had the wrong lineup, because like the prep seeing what they did. They never ran a Cade, but obviously when we ban a zombie, they have to pick a filler, and they picked Cade. We didn't have that. We didn't have a Mav the first round or a Thatcher, and like we had to do a front take and couldn't open the back hatch. We still could have won it, but we just lost some crucial gunfights. And then after that, the kids is like how they set up kids, like they did the same, so it was like easy, like pick apart. And then we lost the meeting because we didn't know where the site was. We thought it was basement. And we didn't know where the site was.
Everyone makes that mistake.
Like I was scrambling to like for us to do like something different, but like the comms were cluttered, and so like we didn't get that right timing to actually hit the site, because like by the time where I was saying like, yo, we need to do this, they had already rotated and like they played site. And Valor, I mean, Rice almost clutched it, but I mean it shouldn't. That was a crazy clutch. Like, we knew where everyone was, but like it was just a crazy clutch by him.
Well, it all worked out in the end. An impressive 7-4 victory. We can't wait for your next games, Bio. Have a good one.
All right. I love you, Cookies. Have a great one.
Every time. Okay. Well, Cookies is not here with us right now.
He's not even here.
He picked the other team too. I don't understand. That's twice. That's 2 days in a row.
It's every time he picks the other team. That's his little jab at the end there. But Cookies will be with us in just a few minutes when we come back. We'll be coming back with Luminosity taking on Aerial Arise.